Happy holidays, fiends. It's the mad scientist Anthony Bowman here, and in the true spirit of the holidays, everything went wrong with this episode. We had sound issues and problems with audio lag. Everything just kind of fell apart at the end. It was chaos. But like Dr. Frankenstein before me, I've chopped everything up and stitched it back together, and it seems to be walking around okay. But if you happen to notice any of the stitches, just know we tried our best. Thanks for listening. It means a lot to us. Really, we can't thank you enough. Okay, take it away, Spooky Piano Man.
The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you.
We're going to actually do the countdown now. 3, 2, 1. Let's jam.
Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
The spring where the heart should be, Eric Velazquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
All right, so first off, we should say happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, so it's... when you listen to this, we should be in the heart of December, and, nothing makes me feel more like the holidays than those old Rankin Bass Christmas specials, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and The Year Without Santa. So I think as we mentioned last week, this week we're going to be doing Mad Monster Party, which is not really a Christmas movie, but it's a Rankin Bass movie, and it has that same sort of vibe that just feels so full of like the holiday spirit.
Yeah, it's got big Halloween vibes. So, Halloween's part of the holiday season, right? That's the kickoff.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And you got
Totally.
the monsters getting together for a party. They don't really say what party it is. It could be Christmas, right? Sure.
Well, yeah, he's celebrating his new discovery. But hey, it's just a reason to have the party, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this movie, not only is it a party of monsters, as the title would say, it's actually like the first movie we're watching where like you really get all of the monsters. We've had all the Universal like Monster Rally movies where they try to get them together, but even Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, you still just really have the main three with that little cameo from the Invisible Man.
But this one's got the Invisible Man. We've got the creature. We've got a few others, including something called It. Not to be confused with Pennywise, though.
It is definitely trying to skirt some copyright laws, as we'll get
to. Pretty hard.
So, yeah, of course. So we start off, as every Frankenstein movie does, pretty much. We got the scientist in his lab. He's working with like test tubes. He doesn't really have a creature with him. He's more like mixing some stuff. And he like pours some liquid on a raven, and the raven flies away and explodes.
Yeah, we have the Frankenstein science scene where he like puts the test tube in the lift and it goes up and gets struck by lightning. And then of course that's when we know it's done, right? Because it's glowing at this point.
Right.
But yeah, as you said, he puts a little drop on the raven's claws, and what happens?
Yeah, it like flies off and then just explodes in the distance.
Not just regular explosion either. Full mushroom cloud. This is some potent stuff the Dr. Frankenstein's cooking up.
And he says that now he's mastered destruction as well as creation.
I mean, yes.
Definitely.
He's not wrong.
It's just a shame, back in the Universal days, Larry Talbot really could have used this.
I mean, well, yeah. Oof. That would have changed the dynamic of all the movies, though, right?
Oh, for sure. So then we get, like, the creature shows up, and Dr. Frankenstein calls him my boy, So then you get more of that like sort of like Son of Frankenstein thing. And I really like the character design is very similar. Like the monster has some sort of like the doctor sort of has like a flat top too. Like they have very similar facial structures, so it feels familial.
Yeah, exactly.
And we should mention that the mad scientist in this is played by Boris Karloff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so then we get like the credit sequence, which has this like really like James Bond kind of sounding music. Like a sort of operatic singer over it, and you got like the monsters are credited rather than like the actors, and it's a lot of fun. And you got like lots of like pow kind of things, like almost like the old Batman movies or something.
But it's actually said in the, and that's what kind of like throws me off. It's like every once in a while it's yep, elch. It's like somebody, a random guy is actually just making these sounds off in the background of the set or something like that.
Yeah, it's not just like the like
Right.
horn section that you get in the Batman movie or show.
Yeah,
But yeah, so then we get like bats delivering invitations to monsters all over the world. And it's kind of neat. You kind of get to see monsters in their sort of like home territory. You get Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You get the creature from the Black Lagoon. You get a mummy. You get a hunchback. Of course, Dracula. But you also get just this like nerdy pharmacy kid, like who seems very out of place.
Before we go on to Felix, can we discuss Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? So
Yeah.
their intro during the song is kind of amazing. I couldn't stop laughing the moment I saw it because, Dr. Jekyll's walking down the street, randomly decides, oh, I'm going to take this potion now, which that's kind of what he does throughout the whole thing whenever he needs Hyde. He just slugs the potion and immediately turns into the green-faced, gnarly-looking Hyde, which great puppet design, by the way, and just runs around, breaks the lamp, breaks a window right beside him, and just causes general mayhem just in the first moments we see him. That is great intro to a character. I kind of wish the chaos carried over a little bit, but of course this whole film's a little chaotic at parts, but in a good way.
Yeah.
But as you said, we're introduced to Felix.
Yeah, so you get Felix, the pharmacy clerk. He's like, I'm not sure the actor, but he's definitely just doing like a Jimmy Stewart impression.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he's like this clumsy pharmacy tech who like keeps knocking. And pharmacy. This is like old time pharmacy. So you got like the soda fountain and it's like the whole deal. And like that kind of becomes like a sort of like gag where he wants to do like real pharmacy stuff, and the owner's like, but then who's gonna man the soda fountain and who's gonna put up the displays of beauty supplies and whatever.
Right. It seems like he is kind of the stereotypical soda jerk, right?
Yeah, but yeah, so he gets his invitation, and then you go back to the island, the castle, and we meet the bride of Frankenstein in this. I think she's called the monster's mate, played by Phyllis Diller. And she like really chews up the scenery in this, and like immediately goes into like a song and dance number. Because this is like a Rankin Bass special, it's a musical, and she sings this song called "You're Different." That's just, almost feels like a My Funny Valentine kind of song. Like it's a love song that's also kind of insulting at the same time.
Yeah, very, to the monster, or Fang.
Yeah,
as I believe he's noted in this.
Yeah, that was strange. I guess that's some sort of like abbreviation of Frankenstein in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just Fang. So then we get to meet the doctor's assistant, who is our first non-hunchback assistant.
Right, and she is quite attractive as far as puppets go.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely like playing her up as like the she's like the sexy redhead. She's very curvy. And like the doctor sort of like hits on her. He calls her a masterpiece.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a rude thing to say, don't you think? I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So like you said, she's definitely a femme fatale, or kind of the seductress stereotype.
So then like they're talking about the the invitations, and the doctor says something about that, like, this party's going to be better because it wasn't invited. At the last party, he was a crushing bore. He was always crushing boars with his bare hands.
Crushing boars, Anthony. Crushing boars. I love it. That was actually, once again, something I laughed at, but I'm an idiot. So anyway.
Yeah, this movie, like, I kind of did start to wonder, like, who this movie is exactly meant for, because it has a lot of jokes that will go way over kids' heads, but it's also really silly. So yeah, I'm not. But then, like, you get like this, sexy secretary,
right?
So I don't know. I mean, I guess Roger Rabbit has like the sexy redhead too, and that is more of like specifically a kids movie. So I don't know, but I guess it's maybe one of those like first kind of movies that those Pixar type movies where it's like we put stuff in there for the grown-ups and for the kids so that everybody will enjoy it.
Yeah. I would argue with you, though. I think Roger Rabbit is definitely a film noir and not exactly meant for the kids, but that's a whole other conversation. That's a whole other conversation.
Hey, I mean, I love it.
Yeah, right? But maybe that's it. I'm living in denial because I love it so much.
So, yeah, then the doctor says that, like, he's excited about Felix coming. He's the child of his younger sister, and she was the white sheep of the family.
Right. Because, black sheep, blah, 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 blah. Exactly.
Of course.
But she married a gentleman by the name of Chuck Flanken. I'm sorry, I called him Franken a bit ago because Flanken sounds like Franken, and that's like a Smith marrying a Smythe,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why they went with that. It just complicates things. But yeah, so the doctor is excited about Felix coming because he wants to retire and turn over all of his secrets to Felix. He's going to be his successor to the like leadership of the Federation of Monsters.
Right.
Then we get like this scene with like sailors. They're like getting ready to like get a boat ready for takeoff. I guess.
Right. Well, I do want to mention though, before we cut away, Francesca definitely, or the doctor tells Francesca, "You're gonna love Felix. You're gonna love this guy." And Francesca's like, ominously, "I'm going to love him to death," because she wants his secrets, right? She wants to be the one.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, like they pretty much lean into the femme fatale thing. Like it's not secret for very long that like she has some nefarious designs in this whole situation.
But yeah, we go into a captain and the deckhand.
Yeah, and they're talking, and you get this great gag where they're talking about our only passenger is Dr. Jekyll, and then the other guy's like, "Huh? He told me his name was Mr. Hyde."
Right. Dun dun dun. But then we're kind of slow fed all the other monsters that kind of come in at this point. We've the first one up, I believe, is the Hunchback. Aside from, of course, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, is the Hunchback and the carrying the mummy's sarcophagus.
Yeah, and they kind of hire him to help load the ship because the crew has all abandoned.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, it's the Hunchback and the mummy in tow, and then you get Dracula, and they see he's in like fancy clothes, so they try to like overcharge him, and so he's like, I'll just fly there, and just turns into a bat and doesn't actually fly to the island, just flies into the boat.
Right. He's still stowing away, damn it.
Yeah, and so then by the time Felix shows up, they're like scared of what weird thing he might do, so they're just like, just get on board, it's fine, don't worry about it.
Right. Well, I mean, they've had the Wolfman doing a monkey impression for some weird reason, and then like you said, the Invisible Man pops up and gives them a nice scare, and so does the creature and a few other things. But yeah, so they're like, "Phil, what are you gonna do? Just get on the boat."
And then once he gets on the boat, of course, you have all the, because he's the like nerdy guy, he immediately loses his glasses, and then you get all this like comedy of errors stuff where he's like bumping into people, and he bumps into the Wolfman and thinks it's like a lady with a fur coat, and he's all apologetic, and then he like bumps into the Invisible Man and doesn't know that he's invisible because everything's invisible to him because he's got no glasses.
Right. And then they have that scene quickly after where the captain's like, okay, well, it's time for dinner. Invite all the passengers to dine with me, which that's kind of odd, you know. I'm sure it was pretty common for the time, but...
Yeah, there's like the captain's table kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But of course, then the first mate goes from like room to room and just manages to get scared in every room and doesn't really invite anybody. And then Felix, while that's going on, Felix meets Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Dr. Jekyll first, of course.
Yeah. And then he turns into Mr. Hyde and just says, hide.
Right.
And he's like, oh, you want me to hide? And he thinks they're playing hide and go seek. So then like Felix goes and hides and is just waiting to be found. And of course...
hides in a boat till midnight. I don't know what time they were eating, but it surely was longer than 5 hours, I would assume.
Yeah, like Felix is just, I mean, they're really playing him up to just be like clueless.
Yeah, it's so good.
And then like the boat finally like gets close to the island, but doesn't like, you know, dock. It basically the monsters all kind of have to like figure it out. So you have like the Hunchback jumps over carrying the sarcophagus and swims to shore. And then you've got various other methods, you know, Dracula flies, of course, and like there's people getting rowboats, and you know, of course, the creature from the Black Lagoon swims. Then like it's kind of confusing because like Felix doesn't go at this time, and then you just like I guess he was like maybe waiting to get closer or something because he's just like not around for the next scene or two.
Right.
So I guess it gives us an opportunity for the monsters to sort of interact without the, you know, the normie showing up and like, you know, souring everything.
Yeah, I mean, normies are boring, right? Monsters are they're the stars of the show.
Yeah. So like we meet like one of the doctor's assistants who's named Yetch.
Yeah.
And he is just a Peter Lorre impersonation.
Yeah, that's it. Zombie Peter Lorre. But there's also a couple possibly problematic, but maybe not. Just zombies in the background. Zombie butlers, of course.
Yeah, and they're definitely like of the old... Well, I guess, you know, like you think of like Night of the Living Dead was when like the zombie as we know it really changed. And this is sort of like precursor zombies, the like, you know, white zombie kind of zombies that are like... you know, voodoo-based zombies, so they've got like nose rings and stuff, and yeah, it's, you know, it borders into cultural insensitivity, but you know, that kind of zombie was what people knew at the time.
Don't worry, we're gonna get to cultural insensitivity here in a moment with a certain chef, but yeah, so of course we can't let it get to the island, so we have these weird biplane scooter things that these zombies are going to hop in and fly around and protect the island from whatever it is.
Yes.
To make sure it doesn't get here.
Yeah, and so that kind of gives you a little hint as to who it might be, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So then we get like Dracula. He's flirting with everybody flirts with Francesca.
Yeah,
like she. Yeah, it's more insensitivity for sure. Like she is just like, you know, she's got a long list of things she could go to HR for, let's say.
Yeah. I think all of the monsters take at least up close. Maybe not the Wolfman and the Creature and the Mummy. I think they maybe stay away from it, but just about everyone else, almost I think even Fang's mate or the monster's mate gets at least a crack or two in on her.
Dracula gets a great line, though, and he says, Francesca, you've always been my type. Oh, negative.
Oh, negative. Blood jokes.
Yeah.
You gotta love them.
And yeah, so after that conversation, like I guess because Dracula flew, he gets there a little quicker. Then we get like the Wolfman and the Invisible Man showing up and Hunchback carrying in the sarcophagus. And yes, then we get the very, very culturally insensitive stereotype that is the Italian chef, Mafia Machiavelli.
His name is Mafia Machiavelli.
Oh my God, that name is just...
How awful. Everything about that was gross. But yeah, he speaks in a stereotypical Italian accent that I'm not going to do, but part of me is like wanting to, just because there's that evil part of my brain.
Yeah, I mean, like he makes Mario look look good,
Right. Yeah.
And then he goes through all of the menu, and of course, it's all like gags about like gross stuff and poison and stuff. So the salad is poison ivy with like arsenic dressing, and
there's 3 types. It's toadstools, poison berries, but the types are, of course, because monsters: arsenic, cyanide, and nitroglycerin. Nitroglycerin, of course, being the one that's worth a bang, I believe.
Yeah,
was the joke.
And then you get they talk about some octopus soup, and of course, then a bunch of like tentacles come out of the pot and sort of attack Yetch. Yetch was sent in to like check on the dinner, see when it's going to be ready, and and really, like, this scene, it feels like it's just there to pad the movie a little bit, because we never see the chef again. The dinner doesn't really matter. It's just this one little weird thing. And then we do get where Francesca sort of like overtly says like she wants to be the successor, and kind of like Dracula kind of hints that he'd like to be the successor. Like, clearly, the rumor mill's going. Everybody knows Frankenstein is retiring, and everybody wants the job.
Yeah, this is kind of where the Game of Thrones plotting starts happening, and honestly, it becomes rather intricate, and there's a lot of double crosses.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, it actually, you're like, am I actually going to see a claymation murder from Rankin Bass? It really, well, I mean, we will eventually, but not like this.
Yeah, if you're watching Succession, this is like claymation monster Succession.
Right. There you go.
But then we get our next musical number, so we get like this rock band of skeletons with like weird bowl cuts, and they're called...
Yeah, it's very Beatles.
The band name is Little Tibia and the Phibias.
And the Phibias. Come on. Yeah.
And they play this song that's just called It's the Mummy, and of course the mummy dances a bunch.
Yeah, we just have a weird mummy dance scene with the mate. She just hops in and starts dancing with the mummy for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then just, I guess, there is a little bit of just the mummy dancing period at the end. But at the end of this number, that's when Francesca pulls Dracula to the side and starts plotting a little bit more about how they're going to deal with this flanking guy.
Yeah, she's starting to come up with a plan and wants to, in fact, she pretty much like outright says, like, if you kill Felix, then I'm next in line and I will share the secrets and the power with you.
Right. But of course, Dracula being Dracula is not one to share power. So he has, I almost thought he literally said this out loud, but I guess it was his internal monologue where he's like, well, I could off you, then I would have the power.
Yeah. And then we get another musical number where Francesca like sings and dances with Dracula. I guess it's their way
of time to shine,
sealing the deal, sort of. And he asks what kind of monster Felix is, and she's like, "Oh, he's a human." He's like, "Oh, that's the worst kind."
He ain't wrong. But of course, their plotting gets spoiled as the mate stumbles in through a curtain.
Yeah, so she like, basically is like, now we're in on the deal too. And Dracula starts to threaten her, but then Fang shows up and just like picks him up.
It's a monster fight.
Yeah. And he's like, don't forget I'm a count, like, be gentle.
Right.
And then we get another pretty insensitive scene where Francesca and the bride fight. They immediately tear off each other's dresses.
A literal cat fight. Oh. They have the cat growl and everything.
Yeah, there's just
so
like weird
awful.
cat sounds in the background, and they're wearing like slips, but like they've torn off each other's dresses, and it's
right.
Oh yeah, it's something. That's the scene where I was definitely like, this can't be for children, right? Like,
ooh, right.
But so their fight sort of rolls into the dining room, which sort of like is a catalyst for a food fight that like everybody just joins into, and the rest of the monsters don't even really know what the fight's about, but everybody's just throwing food, smashing things. Yeah, they're monsters. They don't need an excuse to break stuff.
Right, they're just happy to be there. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and then so like then we get like everybody trying to sleep that night after the chaos of the dinner. And they're all sort of like paired up in like funny combinations.
See, I took this as more of a hangover. It was kind of like the day after, because it was kind of like blue skies, but maybe it was the lighting. Maybe I didn't get that quite right. But yeah, as you said, everybody's paired up.
Yeah, they're definitely, yeah, either it's night or morning and they're still trying, either way they're trying to sleep. Could be that the party went all night and it's now morning and they're trying to sleep.
Right.
But you get like Mr. Hyde and the Gill Man. And the Gill Man keeps like spraying him with water. And that's kind of like it's like a snoring gag, you know, like the creature's or the creature from the Black Lagoon's asleep and like is like spouting water in his sleep. And then you get the Invisible Man and the Wolf Man, and the wolf is like howling in his sleep. But
at least the Invisible Man was very responsible and put a mask on the werewolf. Okay. That's something we all need to remember to do in these times.
Yes. And then we get like the Hunchback and the Mummy, and I can't remember what it's another snoring gag, but I don't remember. Is it
the Mummy was like whistling, and like the raps were tickling the Hunchback.
Yeah. And then we get like Fang and the Bride, and you know, so obviously, like, of course they're paired up. And then the Felix arrives. So it's like the next day. So like he's on like a rowboat, I guess, because I don't know, because he's a human, it took him a longer time to row in or something, or he just stayed on the boat for whatever reason. And
yeah, maybe they were just like, this is as close as we're getting to this wacky island. This is it, buddy.
And then we get Felix saying or mentioning that his uncle's name is Boris. So
right.
So
Boris von Frankenstein.
Yeah. And it's so funny, like Boris Karloff is just an actor. That's just, although I don't think that's his given name actually, but you know, it's not technically like a monstrous name, but just because of him, it sort of has, you know, we talked about the Monster Mash a couple weeks ago, like you know, Bobby Boris Pickett, like Boris has become like synonymous with Frankenstein basically.
Yeah, his original name was William Henry Pratt.
Right.
So you can see when he got into horror, of course, maybe it just had a little bit more gravitas, Boris Karloff.
And so then we get more scenes of like Francesca and Dracula. They're scheming. They're in her room, and she has a framed picture of herself, which I thought was really funny. And that actually comes back later. It's like the Chekhov's gun of this.
Mm-hmm.
She has this sort of idea. So she takes Felix on a tour of the island, and you know, Dracula is supposed to, like, you know, do the hit while they're out on the island somewhere. And we have all this great stuff where, like, even though Felix is like this like sort of cowardly wimp, he's sort of just like accidentally not scared of the monsters because of just the way things play out. Like, he sees the mummy and he thinks he's like an injured guy, and he like helps fix his bandages, like actually ties him to a tree in the process accidentally. Right. And then they end up, they sit down for a picnic, and like it's this great sort of like Scooby-Doo thing where like every time Dracula tries to like swoop in and attack, he like ducks to like get something out of the picnic basket, and Dracula misses and ends up crashing into trees and knocking his teeth out and everything.
Yeah, that's a great gag, because at some point, like you said, Felix is looking through the picnic basket, comes up with a sandwich every time, right? Like, this happens 4 or 5 times, but it's like Dracula swings down to bite him at that just the right moment when he ducks into the basket. And like, I was thinking of Dracula literally on like a rotating branch. Yeah. Just swinging down each and every time.
Yeah, he's like upside down, you know, doing the bat thing, and like just kind of swoops in and just does like loops over and over again, basically.
But as you said, he flies against a tree and busts out all 4 of his teeth.
And of course, they're just back later because, you know, it's a cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dracula. I mean, you know, all Draculas grow their teeth back real quick, right?
Sure.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. Sure. But yeah, then Dr. Frankenstein decides to take Felix on a tour of the facilities, such as the lab.
Yeah, so we get to see the lab in action. We get to see the planes. And
we find out they were built by Wilbur and Orville. Frankenstein. Not right. Frankenstein.
No relation.
No, not at all.
Yeah, so, and then that's when Dr. Frankenstein tells Felix that he's retiring and that he's the head of the worldwide organization of monsters.
I love it. But he also, as he's doing this, he's kind of feeding his pets. And there's a crate that says human fresh. Not flesh, fresh. And it does have flesh in it. He feeds that to his Venus flytrap. Because of course you do.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
And then we just get this another song. We get all these weird little creatures that are
Right.
just like, just new to this movie. They're all like little small critters of varying appearances. And
it's very goblin-like. Like there's a bunch of different goblins, fantasy creature-like things. They don't come back.
Yeah.
They're just here for the song.
Yeah, and they like... Karloff even kind of sings along. It's sort of like a speak singing thing. Like they sing the verses and he kind of like talks over the chorus or whatever. And, after it's finished, like he says, like you've got to take over. This is a family business. And Felix is kind of like, well, let me, I need to think it over.
Yeah. Where does he do his best fishing? Or thinking? Well, I gave you the answer right there.
Yeah, so he's looking for a good place to fish and decides to, like, go down to the moat. And so this is, a good second opportunity to continue the attempts on Felix's life.
By the way, Francesca tells Drac that he had 3 chances. He had way more than 3 chances to get Felix.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was like he probably had 10 chances just when they were out in the woods.
Easy.
But yeah, so before they're trying to talk about what to do, and Fang and the bride show up, and like they decide they're going to get rid of Francesca. She's causing too much trouble.
Right? Dracula had this double cross planned out. He was going to meet with Francesca, then the bride and Fang. And then they were going to do away with Francesca when the time came.
But she manages to escape through a trap door and slides down. And then we cut back to Felix, who's now fishing. And, again, sort of like accidentally thwarts an attack by the gill man.
He gives them fish. I mean, come on. How nice is that?
Yeah. And then we go back to the bride and Fang and Dracula, and they decide they're going to follow her down the trapdoor. They jump down, and she has not tried to escape. She just went down the trapdoor and is just, staying in that room.
Well, she's been writing a message, right?
Yeah.
And preparing something.
Yeah, but, she doesn't try to flee at all. She's just, hanging out. And so then they're, they start to attack her again, and she jumps out the window, landing in the moat, where, there are all these alligators, which seems like it could have been a good opportunity to catch Felix, but instead Felix ends up having to save Francesca.
Saves her from the crocodiles and everything.
Yeah, and so then she gets in the boat and she's kind of, she's upset. She kind of loses it. She sort of starts yelling at him. She's mad because, he's her rival or whatever, but then he saved her. She starts crying. She's kind of just...
the next problematic moment.
Oh boy, yeah. This you see this a lot in noir movies especially, but just movies from this time. If a woman's crying, she's obviously hysterical. We got to use that term.
Right.
And then the solution is to slap her, which he does a couple of times. And yeah, I don't understand why this is such a cultural touchstone. There so many movies that this happens,
so wild.
And it's yeah, I mean, never in a million years should you be slapping any person,
No.
that for any reason, but especially not as a cure for them being in an emotional state. That's the worst thing.
It's no, I just tried. Someone just tried to murder me. Slap. You're being foolish about this. Really? Okay. But of course, what happens when you slap a woman after she's quote unquote hysterical?
She's immediately calm and she falls in love and they kiss and it's so frustrating.
It's so bad. Don't get me wrong. This is fine if you can look past these parts. It's just be aware that these parts are here.
Yeah, and it's yeah. So then, she sings him a love song after him, slapping her.
Yeah. Twice.
Yeah.
Twice.
And so she says, like, they need to escape. The monsters are all out to get them, so that they need to, like, be on the run. And meanwhile, you get Dracula having, like, a meeting of the monsters, basically confirming what Francesca just said. Like, they're saying, like, we got to stop them. They're going to take our organization away from us, and, we've got to do whatever we can.
Yeah, this is kind of the anti-town meeting, though, right? Because, at the end of the movie, exactly, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're trying to stir up all the townspeople to go get the monsters. Well, now the monsters are stirring each other up to go get the humans.
Wow. Yeah, that is... yeah, that... Now that you say that, that makes perfect sense, because we've got this whole, like, island of monsters. It is this whole subversion where, like, the human is the outsider. Wow, yeah, I like that a lot.
I'm glad I could contribute.
And then we get so Dracula then like sort of manipulate, or they like vote, and everybody's in favor except for Yetch, and Dracula like sort of manipulates him with more sort of problematic stuff, and is like, you deserve Francesca. She should belong to you.
She should have been yours. God, dude.
Yeah, it's like patriarchal stuff throughout this movie.
Yeah, it's bad.
But then we get back to Felix and Fran on the run through the island, and we get like vines sort of attacking Fran, and Felix has to save her again.
Yeah, and he has these pills that he's been taking along with his, I'm going to say asthma medication, but he calls it allergies. And he gives one of the plants some pills. And I'm like, okay. I wonder what this is there any symbology here? But the plant spits Francesca out and then starts growing roses.
Yeah, and like it
flowers.
is. He talks about allergies, and then like he spritzes his. I mean, I guess it's supposed to be like an inhaler, but it's more like a perfume bottle or something, or like a. Yeah, it's real weird, but yeah, he takes. Every time he like has like his like asthmatic fit or whatever, he like spritzes and then like sneezes and takes some pills and coughs a little bit, and then he's good.
Yeah, I mean, I really thought he was going to turn into a monster at one point. I was like, ooh, okay, is this going to lead somewhere? And well, no, it's just allergies and pills are magic. So
yeah, so once he like defeats the plant, then we sort of get like this, chase scene where like the monsters are now all in the forest as well, or the jungle, I guess, and Felix and Fran are running and the monsters are after them, and it's not like they're right behind them, but it's sort of like they're being pursued, and eventually like Fran sort of collapses, presumably like from exhaustion,
right,
and like Felix is trying to help, but then the Wolfman and Yetch show up and they like grab her and carry her away.
And then, of course, after that happens, Felix is surrounded. But, of course, we finally get to see it.
And it is basically just King Kong.
King Kong, y'all. Literally King Kong. That's it. That's why they call him it. I guess, why not Kong? I mean, it wasn't copyrighted at that point, right? Or maybe it was.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean... If nothing else, they could have like said like the King or something, and like the King can't have possibly been copywritten.
Right.
But yeah,
no, it's not Pennywise. It is a giant ape.
And so then like Kong picks up the monsters, picks up Felix. Then there's this sort of thing where it's like he's got all the monsters in one hand and Felix in the other, and Felix is trying to sort of like...
Oh, Francesca. He doesn't have Felix because Felix escaped.
Right, that's right. He gets Francesca in the other hand, and
because going back to the picture, he attacks the castle first and sees he sees her photo and falls in love with that photo.
Right. Yep. I totally forgot to write. Yep. That's exactly right. So yeah. As we talked about with all the Kong movies, like, he sees the lady in the window, but in this case it's just her picture, but it leads to her. So that before he picks, then you get to like Yetch, he's trying to kiss Francesca and she's tied up.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this is another part.
It's just left and right, but you gotta love Kong just goes and just flicks him and like launches him across the island. So at least Yetch gets his comeuppance.
Well, of course, Yetch can't let it just go, and of course, as he's going, he screams out "Oy vey," and yeah. So
yeah. And then that's when Kong like picks up everybody, and so yeah, he gets Fran, gets the monsters, and then Felix is like, he runs into the doctor, and there's this scene that like is also kind of tasteless and doesn't really make any sense, and he's just like, I can't live without Francesca, I guess I'll just kill myself. And the doctor's like, don't kill yourself, I've got a plan. And he's like, well, I wasn't really going to kill myself. I didn't think anyone was listening. It's like, I don't know what the gag there is, but yeah.
Yeah.
Suicide humor is never great.
Yeah.
So then the doctor's plan is that they're going to, you know, use the planes to attack Kong. So, I mean, like, you know, again, like, this is the end of King Kong. Like, you've got planes flying around him, and Kong's like batting at him, but the doctor like talks to Kong and sort of like, I'm just completely ignoring the it thing. It's Kong.
Yeah, Kong. Yeah.
So he sort of like talks Kong into letting her go, and is like, you really came here for me. Like you're after me. So he like sets her down, and
he like blows her a kiss.
Yeah.
It's weird
because everybody's got to hit on Francesca.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So
but, yeah, at this point, you know what the doc's going to do. The doc has the potion. He's in the plane. He charges Kong/it,
and yeah, drops the vial and blows up everything.
He even gives a speech that he's basically like, "You monsters were selfish, terrible." It's basically like he's talking down if the audience was there. And, like, this was a very serious movie, this would be the point where it's like, you are the bad guys. But it's like, no, they're monsters. Of course they're the bad guys.
Yeah.
He's talking about them being selfish, and, yeah. So he's like, I'm done with everybody. The Worldwide Monster Agency is done.
Yeah, and so he, you know, he drops the vial, it blows up, there's, like, a fireworks display.
Right.
Like, it's, like, literal, like, fireworks that they've like superimposed onto the footage.
He basically drops the equivalent of several nukes onto this one island full of these monsters. And yep, fireworks. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and so then Felix says that like they get in a boat, they're leaving, and he's like, now we can go home and be married.
Yeah, we can have the babies.
Then Francesca starts crying. And he's like, what, you don't want to be married? And then we get, like, I guess the twist of this movie is that she's also a monster. She's a machine that was created by Dr. Frankenstein, which then explains why at the beginning he called her a masterpiece. There's still a lot of sketchy conversations directed at Francesca, but at least in that case...
Yeah.
She was a creation, and he did a good job.
I'm not going to lie. Every time I hear that, and honestly, there was an episode of Creepshow that pops up in as well, and I'm like, oh no, she's literally the work of art. She is the thing that we're going to talk about. Oh no.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's a robot, effectively.
And, you know, so, like, of course, Felix is like, none of us are perfect. And so then it's like...
Dun, dun, dun! He was a robot, too.
Yeah. So, what a great ending.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty good ending.
Like, for all of the missteps in this culturally, like, this movie is really fun. It's got a lot of silly bits, but it, like, actually...
Yeah, there's some gold in there.
Yeah, it has some good sort of twists and turns, and, you know, the sort of subversion that you were talking about with, like, the monsters sort of being in the majority.
It's like there is heart... You know, yeah. I think if it was made nowadays, it would be better.
Oh, for sure. And, you know, I mean, it does kind of feel like we're due for another sort of fun, family-friendly kind of monster movie. Right? We have not really had anything like that in quite a while. I would guess, like, I don't know, Monster Squad might be the last thing I can think of, other than, like, you know, I guess, like, kids show Halloween specials and stuff like that. But until we do get another one, you know, I guess what we have to look forward to is next week's episode, where 5 years after they made Mad Monster Party, Rankin Bass returned to this same well with the prequel movie Mad, Mad, Mad Monsters, which I'm super excited about because it is the first movie in our sort of run here that I have not seen before. So I'm super excited to check out Mad, Mad, Mad Monsters. I know it's a prequel. I know it's animated instead of claymation, and that's really all I know. So I'm going to be going in blind. Definitely looking forward to that. So I guess we will see you all next week with that movie.
To be continued.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Freaking Cast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velazquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Freaking Cast, or send us a letter at thefreakingcast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, this is the cursed episode, but yeah, I think we got most of what we needed. So yeah, the ending, like we can, I can Frankenstein together an ending.